The hawk didn't crash. It shattered. It struck the forest floor with the resonant thud of a falling boulder, sending shards of gray limestone skittering across the dirt where soft feathers should have been. 20 meters away, a seasoned forest ranger froze, his hand reaching for a radio that would never transmit another word. In less than 3 seconds, his skin took on the dull, matte finish of a museum bust, and the air around him turned into a thick, swirling shroud of white. This is the reality of the Hidden Valley, a place where the laws of biology are being rewritten by a silent, predatory force that the locals call the fossil mist. This is not a story of decay or disease, but a sudden, crystalline transformation. The mist does not descend like a typical morning fog. It flows with a deliberate, heavy grace, clinging to every living surface it touches. When the veil eventually lifts, it reveals a world stripped of its color and its pulse, replaced by a monochrome gallery of what once was. Here, a pack of wolves is captured mid-lunge, their paws inches from the ground, their muzzles wrinkled in a snarl that will never release a sound. They are no longer creatures of flesh and bone, but masterpieces of natural sculpture, cold to the touch and heavy with the weight of centuries. The most unsettling aspect of these figures is not their stillness, but the expression held within their stone eyes. In the final microsecond before the mineralization took hold, the inhabitants of the forest seem to have captured a flash of pure realization. They do not look like the dead. They look like beings who are still very much present, held fast behind a thick shell of calcified mineral. The pupils remain wide, the irises fixed in a stare that seems to follow the rare wanderer who dares to step through this silent landscape. It is a look of profound surprise, a question frozen in a face of solid rock. Witnesses who have skirted the edges of this zone describe the sound of the mist as a soft, rhythmic hissing, like the pouring of fine sand from an infinite hourglass. It does not smell of rain or damp earth. Instead, it carries a dry, metallic scent that parches the throat and stings the nostrils. There are no birds singing in this part of the world, and no leaves rustling in the wind. The trees themselves have succumbed, their branches no longer swaying but standing as rigid as iron pillars. Even the waterfalls have been claimed, the cascading torrents turned into jagged, translucent curtains of stone that hang suspended over dry, dusty basins. The sheer speed of this process defies traditional geological understanding. Petrification typically requires millions of years and high-pressure environments. Yet here, the transition occurs in the space of a single breath. Some researchers suggest the mist is a concentrated aerosol of rare minerals, a byproduct of deep earth vents that have opened beneath the valley floor. Others wonder if it is a localized atmospheric anomaly where the air itself becomes a catalyst for an instant chemical reaction. No one can say for certain because those who venture deep enough to collect a sample of the mist rarely return to describe its properties. To walk through this landscape is to witness a struggle frozen in time. A rabbit is caught in a leap, suspended by a thin stalk of calcified grass that managed to harden fast enough to support its weight. A mother bear stands protectively over her cubs, her massive frame now a monument of gray granite, her fur rendered into thousands of tiny, sharp stone needles. The perfection of the detail is terrifying. You can see the individual whiskers, the texture of the pads on their feet, and the desperate tension in their muscles. It is a snapshot of the exact moment life was replaced by architecture. The silence of the Fossil Mist Valley is not a peaceful one. It is a heavy, expectant quiet that feels as though the world is holding its breath. The air is unnervingly still, as if the wind itself is afraid to move lest it be caught and turned to dust. When a stray pebble is kicked, the sound echoes with a sharp, ringing clarity that vibrates through the stone trees. It is a reminder that in this place, everything has become hard, brittle, and permanent. Time has no teeth here. It can only stare at the perfection it has been forced to create. There are stories of a small village that once sat at the mouth of the valley. Today, if you find the right path, you might see the outlines of its dwellings. They are no longer made of wood or thatch. They have been absorbed into the gray landscape. The tools left on the porches, the clothes hanging on the lines, and the very ground beneath them have all become part of the same continuous mass of limestone. It is as if the mist does not just coat objects, but merges them into a single unified entity of mineral. The boundary between the living and the inorganic has been completely erased. The danger of the mist lies in its unpredictability. It does not follow a schedule, nor is it confined by specific weather patterns. It rises from the ground like a ghost, weaving through the trunks of the trees with a grace that belies its lethality. It moves faster than a person can run, and its touch is as light as a cobweb. By the time a traveler feels the grit on their skin and the sudden cooling of their joints, the process is already too far gone. The joints lock, the breath hitches, and the world turns a dull, unchanging gray. Expeditions that have attempted to study the site from the air report a strange phenomenon. From a distance, the forest looks like a vast, silver scar on the green face of the earth. The light reflects off the stone leaves with a blinding intensity, creating a shimmering effect that makes the entire valley seem to vibrate. However, electronic equipment often malfunctions when hovering directly over the site. Sensors go haywire, and cameras capture nothing but a static-filled haze, as if the valley is actively resisting being documented. Some believe the fossil mist is a natural defense mechanism, a way for the Earth to seal off a region that has become unstable or tainted. By turning everything to stone, the environment is locked in a vault, protected from decay and change. It is a form of radical preservation, a doomsday vault created by nature itself. Yet, the cost of this preservation is the total erasure of the soul. The creatures within the stone are not gone in the traditional sense. They are simply finished. Their stories ended mid-sentence, their lives paused on a frame that will never play forward. The psychological toll on those who live near the valley is evident. They speak in hushed tones of the silent watchers, the statues that stand at the very edge of the mist's reach. These are the ones who almost escaped, the ones whose hands are outstretched towards the green, living world just inches away. They serve as a grim boundary marker, a warning to anyone tempted by the eerie beauty of the stone forest. To look into the eyes of a watcher is to see the exact moment hope was petrified. There is a theory among certain fringe geologists that the mist is not a one-time event, but a recurring cycle. They point to layers of sediment in the surrounding mountains that suggest entire eras were once frozen and then worn down by eons of erosion, only to be replaced by new life that would eventually meet the same fate. If this is true, the current stone forest is merely the latest layer in a vertical graveyard of civilizations and ecosystems, each one turned to rock by the same returning fog. The visual contrast between the edge of the valley and the interior is jarring. On one side, there is the vibrant, chaotic mess of life. Insects buzzing, leaves rotting, colors clashing. On the other, there's the perfect sterile order of the stone. There is no decay in the valley of the fossil mist. A fallen deer will stay as it is for 1,000 years, its ribs never collapsing, its skin never withering. It is a world where the clock has stopped, leaving behind a testament to a single, terrifying second. Those who have touched the statues report a strange sensation. The stone is not cold like a river rock. It retains a faint, lingering warmth, as if the heat of the living creature is still radiating from deep within the mineral core. This phantom pulse has led to whispered rumors that the transformation is not internal, that the mist merely creates a shell, leaving the biological matter intact but immobilized beneath. It is a thought that makes the terrified expressions in the statue's eyes even more haunting. The possibility that consciousness remains, trapped in a lightless, motionless prison. The mist itself remains the ultimate enigma. It has been observed to change direction against the prevailing wind, to thin out when approached by predators, and to thicken around groups of prey. It behaves less like a weather pattern and more like a collective organism with a singular goal: the cessation of motion. It seeks out the kinetic energy of life and converts it into the potential energy of stone. It is the ultimate architect of stillness, building a world where nothing ever dies and nothing ever moves. As the sun sets over the valley, the shadows of the stone animals stretch out across the gray ground, looking like long, dark fingers reaching for the warmth of the light. The statues don't change, but the shifting light gives them a deceptive appearance of movement. For a moment, it looks as if the wolf might finally close its jaws on the rabbit, or the hawk might finally snap its wings. But the light fades, the shadows merge, and the forest remains as it has been, a monument to a moment that refused to pass. The mystery of the fossil mist continues to baffle and terrify. It stands as a reminder that the world we live in is governed by forces we barely understand, and that our biological existence is far more fragile than we care to admit. In this hidden corner of the world, the air itself can turn against the living, transforming the breath of life into the weight of a mountain. It is a place where history is not written in books, but etched into the very substance of the landscape, one petrified heartbeat at a time. Whether the mist is a freak of nature, a chemical anomaly, or something far more intentional, its presence serves as a silent vigil over the valley. It is a guardian of a museum that no one was meant to visit, a collection of lives caught in the ultimate contradiction, perfectly preserved, yet utterly gone. For now, the stone forest remains a gray void on the map, a place where the wind brings no whispers, and the eyes of the statues wait for a thaw that may never come. The world continues to move around it, oblivious to the silent struggle within the mist. But for those who know of the valley, every morning fog brings a moment of hesitation. They look at the white clouds rolling over the hills and wonder if this is the day the atmosphere decides to turn the world to salt and stone. They remember the deer in the canopy, the wolf in the chase, and the eyes that saw it all coming. The fossil mist is not just a legend. It is a lingering possibility, a silent threat that the beauty of life can be fixed, frozen, and forgotten in a single, cold breath. If you ever find yourself standing at the edge of a valley where the air smells of iron and the birds do not fly, do not stop to admire the scenery. Do not marvel at the silver leaves or the statues that look so lifelike they might speak. Turn back, because the valley doesn't want your curiosity. It doesn't want your scientific samples or your photographs. It wants your stillness. It wants to add your expression of surprise to its eternal gallery, turning your story into a monument that will never crumble and a scream that will never be heard. There are those who claim they have heard the statues at night, not voices, but the sound of stone grinding against stone, a microscopic shifting as if the forest is trying to wake up. But when the flashlights are turned toward the sound, there is nothing but the same gray figures, standing exactly where they have stood for decades. Perhaps it is just the wind, or perhaps it is the sound of the earth settling, or perhaps, deep beneath that limestone skin, something is still trying to breathe. the fossil mist remains a shadow on our understanding of the natural world. It is a reminder that for all our technology and all our knowledge, we are still subject to the whims of an environment that can turn the very air we breathe into a tomb. Until the mist is understood, the valley will remain a closed chapter, a place where the sun rises and sets on a world of stone, waiting for the wind to finally blow the white veil away for good. But until that day, the Watchers will continue their silent vigil, their eyes wide with the memory of the moment the world stopped moving.